Hello, everyone. So welcome to today's Pan-Baltic webinar, which is all on experience sharing, how to manage the current crisis and how Baltic states responded to it. I'm Lina Motskuta, Director of Norwegian Lithuanian Chamber of Commerce, and this webinar is co-organized by Norwegian chambers in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. And on behalf of all the partners, our organizers of this webinar, I would like to also express our sincere gratitude to Norwegian embassies in all three Baltic states for actually sponsoring and supporting very much this event. And before we get started, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. So you're watching this event live on YouTube, and we will have 4 speakers presenting, and also the moderator, and I will hand over later to him. And you will have the opportunity to submit also text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions in the comments pane. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentations, and we will collect these, and the moderator will address them at the very end during the Q&A session. So I would like now to introduce the moderator, which is Christian Testman, Director of Ocean Visuals and the Chairman also of the Norwegian Estonian Chamber of Commerce. I'm not sure, but maybe you can wave your hand or say hello to all. And today's presenters are also Marius Jundulas, CEO of Gjensidige Baltic, Ms. Kristina Coyle, Manager of Orkla Group's Accounting Center in Estonia, Mr. Justas Nekrošius, Volkswagen Passenger Cars Brand Manager for Baltic countries at Moller Baltic Import, and Rasa Zaščiurinskaitė, Partner and Head of Competition Practice Group at COBALT Lithuania. This is a Pan-Baltic law company. So before I hand over to Christian, on behalf of all the partners and supporters, thank you once again for joining us today, and we really hope you find this interesting session. So I thank you, and over Christian.
Thank you, Lina. Good morning, everyone. As you can see, I'm addressing you from my home office. Like many of you, I have been directly impacted by the COVID-19 virus. It's certainly been a changing event in our lives for many of us. It has affected industry, but most of all, it has affected global health. And let's take a look at the effects of COVID-19 as we speak. I have prepared a quick update, which is really relevant. I hope you can see this now. It is a PowerPoint, and once Zoom lets me share, it should be available to you. I am not, no. It's not possible when we are doing this kind of shared environment, I'm afraid. But the status right now is that there are more than 8 million people infected with the coronavirus, the COVID-19 virus. And there are more than 443 deaths, unfortunately. We all remember how this impacted China first, and we thought, oh, that was strange, and didn't take much notice until we saw the numbers coming in from Italy, and people returning from their skiing holiday in February from particularly Austria here in Norway were infected. And this is how the virus spread, one thing, from the central parts of Europe. And it spread quickly also to New York, where people had been in Europe on the holidays. And from New York, we know that it spread, and right now the pandemic is at its worst in Brazil, in South America, where the death toll is now #2 in the world, only rivaled by the United States. In the United States, we have more than 2 million people dead of COVID-19 and counting. And there is almost 1 million people dead in Brazil. Now, how has this impacted the lives in our Nordic countries? When you look at the statistics, one would think that we have been fairly blessed in the sense not so hard hit. And that might be the truth. But when you look at the effects on the economy combined with some of the measures that has been taken by some of the governments, some stricter than others, you will have a combined result that is pretty frightening. And because a lot of people are worried right now, we thought it would be a good idea to gather the leading businesses in our region that are originally Norwegian businesses, but certainly have a great footprint in the Baltics. And we're very proud today to have the Orkla group with us, represented, and we are having Gjensidige insurance group represented. And we have Moller, the auto importer of Norway, with us. Without further ado, I think it's fair to address the question of business impact. I can start with myself. We are heavily involved in the offshore industry on the west coast of Norway, build offshore handling equipment. And the strongest impact on the economic scale for Norway's sake has been the abrupt drop in the oil prices. We saw the oil prices go from around $75 per barrel down to $22 per barrel. And the sweet crude oil of Mexico Gulf, the American oil, that actually was negative for a while. That means that at the end of May, you would actually get paid $30, $40 to take on a barrel of oil if you could move it from the producer. This is how heavy the oil price has been hit. And the effects on the Norwegian economy is also then extremely big. Naturally, one of the first industries then is the offshore industry of Norway. So we have seen orders completely dry up in that particular segment. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one who has experienced this, and I think it's a good thing if we can start then with Marius. Marius, you represent the human side of things, but also the cause and effect side of things, the insurance. Why don't you introduce us to how the COVID has impacted your industry and particularly Gjensidige, please?
Okay, thanks. I will try also to share my presentation. Just a minute. It should come to your screen. At least, I hope that you already see that. We are Gjensidige, and maybe you know that Gjensidige is one of the most known brands in Norway, more than 200 years of history in Scandinavia. And Baltic countries is also a good fit to that as Northern Europe. And as insurance, we take care about life, health, and valuables of people. So I would say that in this COVID crisis, our mission is very relevant. That the COVID situation impacted very deeply this feeling of safety and security of people. So that's why our insurance is an important player. Our turnover is around 120 million euros last year, and we have branches in Latvia and Estonia. Every day we deal with more than 420,000 private people, 35,000 corporate, and for us is working more than 700 employees. And just a minute. And what's happened when crisis came? In first week, of course, it was big stress, and then the motor lines. First of all, travel was hit, and travel went down more than 90%. From two reasons: not only that people was restricted to travel, but also travel cancellation claims came in huge amounts in all three countries. Still, we believe that travel recovery will be slow, and this impact we will feel in quite long time. Motor insurance in Baltic countries, motor insurance has like 65% of all insurance market. So it's fallen down 15-25% down. And I would say that insurers started to keep volumes, started to decrease prices. So if you would like to get good insurance prices, now right moment. Because on other hand, we see that claims due to restrictions of traveling was also fall down, but now they are recovering totally to pre-crisis level. So if you look which areas was less affected, we saw that private clients, property lines, health insurance was more resistant and recovered faster. Corporate clients, motor products, and online sales, in which we see more price shoppers dropped at larger scale, and we still see that those segments are affected more. What was also very interesting, then in the beginning of COVID lockdown, cancellations jumped very significantly of policies. Customers try to stop all unnecessary spendings, and insurance was one of them. But now they are on normal level, on pre-crisis level. I already said that due to quarantine, we were less traveling, less driving, so it's affected very positively loss ratio. But in recent weeks, we see that it's recovered totally to pre-crisis level. So do I need to go how to affect it, how we coped with that?
Yeah. That is interesting. Thank you very much for this kind of introduction from Gjensidige. I would like to move our attention to Estonia, in Tallinn. We have Kristina with us. She runs the accounting center for the Orkla group. And many of you don't know what the Orkla is. It's a huge conglomerate of Norway. And it's predominantly known for its food and food manufacturing. Now, Kristina, can you be so kind and give us your impressions from the COVID-19 period? But first of all, start with a little presentation of what Orkla is. Thank you.
Yes, hello, and welcome to this event. And I'm very pleased to represent and present Orkla. And I'll share my slide. One moment. Yeah, I see. Yes, so a couple of words about Orkla. We are Norwegian based, but really the Nordic-Baltic largest branded consumer goods company, where we have in all in all countries, which is listed on a map, huge number of production units. And we have more than 300 local brands, which are really well known and well represented in all grocery stores. And our market share is about 30 to 80%, depending on a product or category. And our revenue is nearly 4 billion euros. And in a group total, we have 18,000 employees. And in the Baltics, we are represented in all 3 countries. We have two factories in Estonia, 4 in Latvia, and then 1 in Lithuania. So we are a really big player on consumer goods market also here in the Baltics. And in the Baltic group as such is represented in 5 business areas, which is foods, confectionery and snack, then care, food ingredients, and consumer investments. Then when we are looking at the Baltic picture, then the heaviest part where Orkla is involved in the Baltics is the foods area and confectionery and snack. Where, yes, the Baltic is counting really nice market share of confectionery area, 18%, and then on foods area, yes, 3%. Yes, let's say, as you all remember, when the mid-March started and you went to the grocery stores, they were really empty. And it started with huge stockpiling from consumers. Starting with tons of toilet papers and ending up with everyday food products. When we talk about Orkla experience in COVID, then of course our first priority was to safeguard our own employees, but also to continue our productions as we are producing the food, what is needed in any case in all markets. That yes, we had to ensure that our supply is in place. And of course, very important was also to maintain strong balance sheet, as we didn't know how long, how it will hit, and how we will be affected as a group. So what we saw then when we entered into the mid-March and until the special period lasted in Estonia, it ended mid-May. But it depended a little bit on the countries. So our impact for COVID-19 was that there was a significant increase in consumer stockpiling, and especially on foods area in the Baltics and in the Nordics also. In the Nordics, we also saw huge increase in care area, where we have personal and home care products, disinfection products, washing and everything what you can clean, that you can clean yourself and your home. We were not luckily hit much on supply chain disruptions. There were some, but that was not affecting our production. And of course, all contingency plans were taken out, and these worked really well. And a lot of mitigation actions. When there was total lockdown, we were affected through our own shops, which were in supermarkets, which were closed down. And in Estonia, in Tallinn, our confectionery area has also a cafeteria in Old Town with a big shop that was also closed down. And actually the food area, we had really huge volume increase, including of course income increase, but actually in confectionery area in the Baltics especially, we saw decreased demand. And we have had people in the factories with lower lower contracts in that sense that they work half of their time only until the volumes will come back to the life. And also there has been some layoffs due to the decreased volume, especially on confectionery area in the Baltics and mainly in Estonia. Yeah, maybe that's all.
Okay.
My side. So yes, maybe one thing more to say that on a group level, yes, our main selling point are the grocery stores or e-commerce, e-channels, but 20% of our products go also to out of home, and of course that part was affected also heavily. So all restaurants, hotels, that sale dropped, but that is some 20%. So 80% of our sales remained. In some areas had huge increase, and in some areas, yeah, decrease.
Okay, thank you, Christina. That was very detailed, and it's interesting to hear that both and in you have a surge of demand, and at the same time it was a peak, and then it lowered, and now people don't have that sweet tooth anymore. So hoarding is probably one effect and one learning we made from your presentation, which is not a good side of humanity, but I guess it's only human. Now we are moving on, and now we will hear something completely different. One of the largest private groups in Norway is the Moller Group. And we are lucky to have Justas with us. He represents the brand management of Moller Baltic Import, the Kaare importer. So Justas, can you tell us a little bit about the auto industry and your experiences of the COVID-19 period, please?
Hello. So once again, I'm Justas. Thanks for introduction, and I will, in the beginning, introduce Moller Mobility Group and our operations in the Baltics, and also what was effect of COVID-19 to our automotive business.
Very good.
So in the beginning, very briefly about Moller Mobility Group. We are operating in 3 regions, so in Norway, Sweden, and in the Baltics. In overall, we have more than 4,000 employees in the group, and in Baltics, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, we have 2 business models. One is retail. We have dealerships, and also we are representing brands and importing cars. So in the Baltics operations, we are having 700 employees, and I'm representing Moller Baltic Import, which is responsible for importing Volkswagen passenger cars, light commercial vehicles in the Baltic countries, and also Audi in Latvia and Lithuania. So overall, actually, we have very good development of new car market in all Baltic countries, and last year was a record year for us, and we sold 11,000 new cars, which is quite a big number for the Baltics, and of course we were expecting to have another record year in 2020, but in reality what was in March, actually in mid of March, all those measures what was taken by the government, so our business totally stopped. And when we summarized as example April results, so new car market practically stopped, so the overall drop was minus 65% versus last year, and
Hello? I think I lost Justus, and I think most of you did, didn't you? Until we have Justus back with us, I have to move on in the program, and we are very fortunate to have someone representing the legal system with us today, and it is Rasa. She represents COBALT, and COBALT is a Pan-Baltic legal house with extremely close contacts and knowledge to the governmental side of things. And Rasa is going to give us the highlights of how the Baltic countries have reacted to the COVID-19 period, and a slight summary of measures taken and impact. So please, Rasa, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's a big pleasure to be here today and to speak about the measures taken by the Baltic states to counterweight the quarantine restrictions in Lithuanian, Latvian, and Estonian economies. It's quite a symbolic day to speak today, as we have the end of lockdown in Lithuania today. So hopefully less restrictions will remain, and hopefully the situation will change. But talking about the restrictions and the impact and how the Baltic states tackled those challenges of the pandemic to economies, I would just briefly like to start with the, if I can, okay, with a broader level of the EU, what the state aid measures were adopted by different member states within the EU, and also Norway. So we see that Denmark, France, and it's not in the table, but also Norway looks like they had the leading, the most numbers of decisions to tackle the problems of the pandemic by the state measures. And the Baltic states are more in the middle in terms of the state aid measures adopted and coordinated with the EU. And the usual types of the measures cleared at the EU level, and in Norway, as I looked at the decisions as well of FTA Surveillance Authority. So there are direct grants, the most popular, and guarantees. And other measures are also applied by the member states. So going back to the Baltics and how the government succeeded in tackling those problems caused by the pandemic to the economies, we see that generally Baltic states adopted rather similar support measures to tackle the challenges of pandemic effects to the businesses. The main measures applicable in the Baltic states, with certain exceptions, are such as wage support, rent support, subsidized loans, and state guarantees, postponement of taxes, equity injections as an ultima ratio measure, and also some additional measures such as moratoriums for suspension of insolvency procedures and loan repayments, which I will talk briefly later on. Just very briefly, in addition to add, there were also other measures adopted by the member state, by the Baltic states to tackle the problems in the specific sectors such as agriculture, tourism, cultural events, restaurants, and also we know that in Latvia we have one huge amount contributed allocated to national airline of Latvia to tackle those problems. So 250 million euros allocated to Airbolt. Okay, going further, one of the most effective state measure adopted in all three Baltic states, that is the wage subsidies, where the subsidized portion during the quarantine differs from 70% up to 1,000 euros in Estonia, 75% up to 700 euros in Latvia, and in Lithuania there are alternative options chosen by the employer, that is from 70% or 90% of the established level to be compensated by the state. And also Lithuania, there is post-quarantine subsidies, wage subsidies up to 6 months. Another measure which was adopted in Estonia and Lithuania, which was very positively addressed by the businesses, especially in Lithuania, that is rent subsidies. In Lithuania, state undertakes to compensate and to cover 50% of the amount of the rent if the landlord lowers the rent fee by 30% and leaving only 20% payable by the tenant. In Estonia, rebates applied only for shopping malls and covering 25% of rent reductions. Even though the measure was very much positively addressed by the businesses in Lithuania, still we see that there are some issues, challenges to implement this measure in Lithuania. There's only 2 million euros at this moment paid to the businesses out of 100 million euros for this measure. Another measure which was implemented in all three Baltic states, that is subsidized loans and state guarantees in order to tackle the liquidity problems, so working capital or investment loans up to 10 million euros in Estonia and up to 1 million euros in Latvia and Lithuania. And there are also state guarantees applied to different types of enterprises, and also interest subsidy applied in Lithuania to cover the interest during the loan holidays, which I will discuss later a bit. So in general, what is the feedback of the financial aid measures and effectiveness of those measures? So in Lithuania, there was quite a widespread public criticism of these measures due to lack of speed and simplicity, as there were restrictive requirements of the aid. There was lack of speed, and as the numbers show, statistic which is presented on the website each day show that the percentage of the implementation of the payments to the businesses is still rather low compared to the amounts and funds for these measures. This is not the case in Estonia and Latvia. No widespread criticism with regard to state aid measures, at least what I've heard from my colleagues in Latvia and Estonia. And another measure which I just also wanted to indicate, which was in all three Baltic states as well, that is postponement of tax and social security payments. And this is one of the most effective state aid measures, state support measures adopted by three countries, which includes suspension, recovery, and late payments of payable taxes, social security payments, and possibility to enter tax loan agreements after the emergency status is abolished. In addition to that, there were measures, regulations to suspend the insolvency procedures both in Latvia and Lithuania adopted, and some initiatives from the private banks, that is moratoriums on loan and leasing payments in Latvia and Lithuania, up to 6 months suspension and up to 5 million euros in loans and leasing. That was very much positively addressed by the businesses as well. And the very last measure I just wanted to address is the special fund established in Lithuania to invest into medium and large enterprises with the planned size of 1 billion euros. That is 100 million euros initial capital and 400 million euros state guarantees for non-equity securities. And there might also be an involvement of the private investment institutional investors up to 500 million euros. So that's very beginning. We will see how it will evolve within a year or so, but that's the measure that was adopted in Lithuania as well. And the last thing I just wanted to mention that currently we have already the Reopen EU initiative by the European Union, and certain restrictions removed within the Nordic countries as well. It does not apply, unfortunately, to Sweden, as there are still restrictions to enter to certain Nordic countries from Sweden. And there's also the Baltic travel bubble, which was introduced in the mid of May, and we will see how it evolves with all the restrictions to be removed in the nearest future. So that's from my side the brief overview about the Baltic states and the governments, how they tackled the pandemic challenges towards the businesses in all three Baltic states.
Thank you, Rasa. That was really interesting and very knowledgeable presented, including the travel and the opening of the summer season. Many Nordic countries have already started the school holidays, and there is high expectation on the lifting of travel bans. Only this week, Norway lifted its travel ban on Denmark, Finland, and unfortunately not Sweden. And we will see similar activities in the other countries. Denmark opened up for Norway and Germany, etc. also this week. So a lot of school children with the families will start moving about, and that will certainly affect the situation in the pan-Nordic Baltic region. Now, let's go back to the status quo, where we are right now, and what we will predict for the summer. Marius, you are the one fortunate enough to make the insurance. And you mentioned earlier today it's a good time to renegotiate your insurance because prices are good now, you said. On the other hand, a pandemic is never good. One question, people have asked already, and I will add it to you. Can you insure yourself well enough if you are a breadwinner in the family? This was one question that was raised, but please tell us more about how Gjensidige will go through the summer and what your thoughts are on the coming months and maybe even year. Please.
Okay, thanks. I also will try again to share my slide. Just a minute. I hope that it came. I still would like to say a few words how we cope in first weeks with COVID, and then it will be clear what is coming next. First of all, for us, it helped a lot that we had this crisis team. We had those trainings before the crisis, so when COVID came, we immediately activated, and health and safety for clients and employees was main priority. Of course, remote work, and we were capable in like just week to move all our employees home, and even now, 75% of our employees working from home, and we are planning that a big part of them will return back to head offices just in the end of summer or even later. So, and what also was very interesting in this, that communication was very important in this type of crisis, because this crisis like hit at this security feeling, and to make people calm and to understand what will happen, we needed really to spend a lot of efforts communicating top down and also horizontally. But what is positive things from this COVID situation? So we tested in real life fully paper-free operations, digital signatures, totally cash-free operations, but all our aim was to keep employees. Just a minute. Somehow. What our prediction? After this short and sharp drop down of insurance, we see good recovery processes. And as I said in the beginning, those property lines, health insurance, even growing now. Especially in Latvia, when in Latvia we have that half of the health sector is from state-owned companies. So we see very good development. We also see that clients tested online sales, and digital client experience will be very important in the future. Remote work, as I said, prior to crisis, we allowed 3 days to work from home for our employees, but this situation showed that we should be capable to work or full-time or a big part of time remote, and looks like that our employees like that. But this is challenge for management, how to train those new skills to manage teams which are not physically in office but on remote. And also I think the social responsibility and employer branding is so important, because when I compare crisis 2008, it mainly was economic, to save money, to save, and it means that in that time you needed to do everything to save money. But this time people will remember what you did during crisis and how you acted with your employees and customers. So that's, I think this will remain as very important topic for the future. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Marius. Christina, how did the big Orkla group, and especially Orkla in the Baltics and your accounting teams, how did you respond when this happened, and what do you think is going to happen going on?
Yes, as when the special situation was announced by the government, then all Orkla subsidiaries, or the whole Orkla actually, depending on the country, when it was announced, started to work from home. When it was in Estonia, it was not like it was possible, and it was not like mandatory. We can't force everyone to go home if someone wants to work from the office. So actually in accounting center, we had a couple of people were working all the time in the office, but the rest, I would say that 99% in all Orkla people were working from home, of course, except production, where you need to be in the site. So, and that was also a very clear message that we need to keep very high health security level in production sites, that we don't get any affected employees there. So actually everything, I have to say that all systems were working very well. So we had no downtime in the home office, let's say so. So everything worked from day one. Previously also we had restriction for the home office days. You were able to do it, but on a limited number of days per month. And we also had a wish that everyone has, we have laptops, but you need to have also a big screen in order to manage with the workload. But now the COVID showed that quite many screens, we allowed people to take their office screens to home. So there was quite a lot of empty tables in the office. Sorry?
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes. And now at least our accounting center, we are back in the office. In general, I agree with Marius that you can work wherever you want. Actually, if you are a senior employee, but if you are junior, just started, and to feel and see and feel the team spirit and the team itself. The real office is also has its own values also. Otherwise we continue the normal business wherever we are then. But currently, yes, in other offices in Orkla, in the Baltics, people are also returning to the offices. But there is all the time possibility to work from home also. The prediction from a business side for the future in the Baltics is that the food area is still growing, as also the grilling season has started, so the weather is positive, so that's supporting also much of the sale of our products. But on confectionery area, we still see that the volumes will not come to the same level as they were, and especially on chocolate boxes as one area where they were very much of airport or tourism products. So this will take time when that sales will be on same level, most probably before next summer, when hopefully then the tourism tourists to Estonia will be back. Otherwise, and also the out of home has started to reopen in the Baltics, but also in the Nordics. So that part is also slowly increasing, and the sales is step by step back. So we hope to be on track, but it takes time, of course, because consumers are still careful. So we won't get the same numbers in out of home for some time. But at least the group financial targets are still in place, what were put before the COVID. So we hope to meet the targets.
Then you are one of the very lucky ones. Thank you very much, Christina. That was really good to hear that the food is safe and the food will be there and the demand is picking up again. Now, Justas, we lost you there for a while, so I'll let you continue, but you have to be quite brief in presenting the Moller status. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, so once again, I will start showing. So hopefully now you see. Could you have a sign that it's okay?
Yeah, you have to speed up about 50%, okay?
Yeah, so very quickly. So also as our business practically stopped, we also introduced home office in all countries. And as our cost structure also is quite high with the personnel costs, so also we faced some restructuring and layoffs. And of course, we needed to adopt a lot of new working routines. But as we are facing already not the first crisis, so in each crisis we see that there is some opportunities, and here I see personally that this crisis accelerates very fast changes. So let's say some things that we are planning for a long years, we accelerated very fast, and our teams did very well. So as example, I will take some examples from which projects were introduced very quickly in our business. So we introduced virtual showroom where customer is able to observe car sitting at home and see all the features. Also, we just were at the launch of a new Golf 8, and usually we having sales teams training events. So due to this quarantine, we were not managed to gather. So that's why we were doing video shootings and trainings, delivering all information during video training. Also, sales and after sales processes changed quite radically. We introduced some new things like chats, like direct chats and video chats to after sales and sales process to present a car before delivery and also during a sales process. And of course, everybody knows that e-commerce hit all the records and increased the sales. So also we were the first ones in Baltic countries to introduce eShop functionality for our cars, both Audi and Volkswagen. And this is just first start, which also will really continue in the future. There are, like I saw already in the chat, some questions. What are the learnings from this? I would say my personal key learnings are three. That when everybody asks for certainty, it's quite impossible to guess how it will look like, especially the future one. Also, we need to react very fast, and also to get used to this new term, like new normal. So now we are building all the processes, all working environments based on this new normal approach. And talking about our sectors very quickly, about automotive business worldwide, it is expected that automotive business will recover to 2019's last year level in 2023. It's quite a different recovery scenarios for Europe and for China. In China, it was very fast because a majority of Chinese, they have a first car purchase is a new car. So that's why, due to the safety reasons, psychological safety reasons, they afraid to use public transport and other means of transport. That's why we are really keen on buying new cars. In Europe, is recovery will take longer. And of course, in the Baltics, actually, I would say it's really hard to predict. Either it will be very slow, or it will be like fast Baltic tigers will recover like previous to 2009, 2010. We were growing about 30% each year. So hope the business will recover quite fast. And at the end, I would say there are a lot of opportunities. You see now the summer is coming. A lot of traveling still people want to do. And as it was mentioned, there is this travel bubble in the Baltic countries. So we see that there is a demand for new cars. People now will be traveling with cars across the Baltics. So we hope that this our business will recover. And the one learning and opportunity for a Baltics, I think we see that the Baltics has big advantage of a digital services. So I think that Norway and other countries can utilize this, and I see very big potential for digitalization advantages for the Baltic countries. So with this, I will end my part, and I will welcome to answer all coming questions.
Excellent summary, Justus. Before we go to the question part, because some of you have already started to send in your questions, and I'm getting them, and I will address them. We are going to have a brief summary from Rasa on the governmental predictions. I'm sure there are as many wizards out there in the governments as there are witches, and nobody knows the future. We all know that, but at least there are predictions, Rasa. And can you give us a brief summary from the Baltic states, please?
Yes, so thank you for letting me talk about those predictions from the governments very briefly. So as you mentioned, it's a rather tough task, and actually for the governments as well. So what we see, the predictions they had in the beginning of lockdown, and what they had in the middle of lockdown, and what they have right now, they are a bit changing, and actually the predictions are better and forecasts are better compared to what was at the very beginning. So that's the good news. The other good news is that there are discussions between the Baltic and Polish governments, and actually this week one meeting happened among the ministers of foreign affairs of all the Baltic countries and the Polish government to discuss how to remove the restrictions, including the borders, travel restrictions for third countries, and also measures for post-crisis recovery of the economy. So they're discussing how to tackle those issues at the Baltic level as well. And there are also other measures taken by each country, such like Lithuania has adopted its DNA plan, whereby it plans to invest into the economies more than 6 billion euros in different sectors and different areas in order to increase the development or recovery by the economies in the countries. So very briefly, that's from my side. I believe there are still a lot of questions to be answered, so I will just give the floor to the Q&A session.
Thank you. That was really good, Rasa. And I hope this collaboration will succeed, the one you mentioned, especially with the Poland, who is a major country in the southern region. Now, we have received some questions. The first one is from Mr. Torbjørn Siren, who is a member of the Norwegian Estonian Chamber of Commerce in Tallinn. How much, and this is for you, Kristina, how much was Orkla affected by the changings in the logistics business?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, if everyone remember, then the transportation both from road through Poland was quite a challenge, as the border was like the queues were 50-40 kilometers. So yes, that was tricky actually to get on time the goods to the factories, but we managed to get. So we had our some raw materials in stocks to that we had no need to stop any production. But another area which was even more tricky was our own employees in production sites. All the healthcare products, the protection tools, where you know that everyone wanted to buy from China and who got and who didn't. Luckily, we managed to get, but that was a real challenge for our group procurement to first of all safeguard the health and the daily operations. That was also quite a challenge, but none of the production units were. There was no need to close any due to the delay in raw materials, but that was challenging.
Good to hear. Next question we have from Intas Pelamex. Hello. What role did data availability and analysis play in decision making in a crisis situation? Now that question goes to all of you. So why don't you start, Rasa, because that's more, well, okay, Jundulas, you want to answer, please?
I'm Marius. I think very good question, data availability, because on one hand, historical data was not good ground to make further decisions, but speed of making decisions, as Justas mentioned, is started to be critical one. And like us in our sector, data is king, and the more you have, the better decisions you can make. And data analytic team, we even employed new people during the crisis. So I would say role of data is very big.
Okay, not surprising from an insurance company, Marius. Thank you, Jundulas. What about the automobile logistics calculations? I think your microphone is off. Here we go. I can see you now, and unmute.
Yes. Yes. No. Okay. So actually, what comes to our case, as all moderators said, that in our case we took 2008 the situation what we were facing. But I think we are very happy that we are having know-how, huge know-how from Germany, from Volkswagen and Audi, where we have some models how to forecast markets. And I would say in some cases we were forecasting even earlier than some official agencies in Lithuania were forecasting new car market. But due to complexity and not full data available for new car market until September, we said that it was quite hard to forecast the development. Of course, we are taking the GDP growth percentage or decrease percentage which we are getting, but this, as we know as well, it changes month by month and country by country. So in reality, we are I would say we are relying not on data, but we are relying on our experience and our professionalism, professional teams, which were already faced not one crisis. So this may be the insight from our side.
Okay, good. Any comments, Christina, Rasa?
No, I mean, the data is key, of course, what you need to compare and see where the numbers and goes in order to make the decisions. Yes.
And that's coming from the head of accounting in Orkla, I assume. it's the law and order. Now, my next comment comes from Anneli Hansen in Estonia. In Estonia, the criticism was big enough that Kredex changed the criteria for loans and lowered the requirements. Now, Rasa, do you have any comments to that?
Yeah, well, I should say that's a good news for Lithuania, that not only Lithuania had big criticism, but actually, well, I do understand that's a big challenge. That was a big challenge, as the institutions, the authorities, which did not have previous experience and capacities to tackle the problems which were overloaded with the applications and requests from the businesses, and quite unclear criteria. So yeah, and that was a big challenge for the authorities themselves. But it just one short comment from and compliment to Lithuanian authorities. They listened to the comments from the businesses, as the businesses were very active in commenting and actually and showing the mistakes or problems, technical problems, both the criteria problems. So they were trying to at least to correct certain mistakes by changing the criteria, by listening, by reducing the requirements, and so we'll hope that will be good lessons for the future.
Okay, well, yeah, I hope so too. Now we have a new question from Didsis Sklavins. How are you preparing for a potential second wave of coronavirus? Marius, this is a life and death situation, and insurers probably have
well, I would agree with what Justas said, that this is now new normal, and I feel that businesses are quite prepared to work now in existing situation. That the risk of corona is now every day, every time. Yes, it could be bigger, lower, but I think we already prepared for that. And a big part of that is still this working from home, or this remote work, or digital services. So I also agree with what Justas said, that this crisis worked as acceleration to some of our strategies, and we just are much more prepared to this digital world, which corona do not affect so much. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? The second wave?
In our case, we actually looking at the 3 different scenarios, of course, and taking business models and market development models in this L, U, and V shape, and probably now we are forecasting that our business automotive market will be something between U and L shape, which means that much slower recovery. And as our teams already went through this difficult April and half of March, the totally locked down. So now this is tested, so we are ready to work in this emergency situation, and now we are just putting numbers together and waiting indications from the customers, from the market, which scenario is following. But I would say to finish on optimistic way, that in after sales especially we are facing V scenario, very quick recovery, and also new car purchases. As I said, during this travel demands, especially with cars, we see that it's quite optimistic numbers already on May and June. So I'm really waiting for September, when we will see maybe 9th month results, and hopefully we will recover and will not go into a deep depression. But still we are prepared for all scenarios already now.
Okay. Christina, the food giant?
Yes, of course, we are also looking at different predictions and making analysis what to expect. So different working groups looking what could happen, what should happen, and of course it depends also on governments. At least the Estonian government has said that most probably so severe actions won't be taken, but we'll see from a government side.
And Rasa, do you have any further comments on the government side for a second wave?
Sorry, it's good to hear that the companies are preparing different scenarios and preparing for the new wave. And actually, I believe companies are better prepared and knowing how to tackle those problems in their sectors. But a close cooperation between the businesses and the governments, I think, is crucial for the future in these difficult times.
Yeah. We will end this very nice webinar conference with a question that's personal to each one of you. It comes from the managing director of Baltic, the textile company, Helena Almqvist. And the question is, which are your most important leadership skills and traits when leading your company through times like these? So we can start with Marius again.
I think in those, this is also very interesting that leaders are paid for that, to be prepared for crisis. You know, so that's why is part of the job. I think first of all, to be capable make decisions in this uncertainty, to act quick, but especially in this crisis, it was needed. Like good communication, be with people. Like our examples was that we have weekly CEO letter, we have weekly information sharing meetings, and those what decisions which we made was effectively spread from top to down. We also like established some specific corona block in our intranets in all 3 countries in local languages, like pointing what is important, and again, trust people, be with them, not disappear. I think this is most important advices which we could give to other leaders.
Thank you, Marius. Now, Christina, you have a lot of accountants working for you, and it must be stressful to run a business from home offices, obviously. Can you share us a little bit about how you cope with it?
Yes, it was different, of course, when you don't meet up with people physically, but actually it worked out really well, as we have previously from time to time worked from home office. So we had still continued to have our team meetings, different trainings, which were planned one-to-one sessions. We had all our PDPs, performance discussions via Teams. So that was also interesting. And we also, in order to keep the mood up, we had we made a Yammer group internal, where we had some outside work activities that if something fun happened, or keeping the spirit up. So and we also we had quite many also birthdays during these times, so we sent to everyone with a courier flowers to home. So we kept the spirit up.
We need to round up now. I've been told that some of you are actually going to be in the next meeting 12 minutes ago. I thank you all for participating, and I wish you a pleasant summer, a corona-free summer, obviously, and that we all meet again at the seminar, physically, hopefully, Pan-Baltic, sometime in the future. We will say it like that. With these words, I bid you farewell, and thank you for participating in this webinar. Goodbye, everybody.